Sumerians. The Sumerians are considered to be the first urban civilization in the world, emerging in Mesopotamia around 4500 BCE. They weren't a single unified empire, but a collection of powerful city-states like Uruk and Ur, each with its own ruler. What makes them so important is their list of incredible inventions. They developed cuneiform, the world's first known writing system, and are often credited with inventing the wheel. They built massive stepped pyramids called ziggurats and developed a complex system of mathematics based on the number 60, which is why we still have 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour. Their downfall wasn't a single event, but a slow decline caused by centuries of warfare between their own city-states and environmental damage from their own irrigation techniques, which made the soil too salty for crops. They were eventually conquered and absorbed by the Akkadians. Aztecs. The Aztec Empire dominated central Mexico from the 14th to the 16th centuries, with their capital, Tenochtitlan, built on an island in the middle of a lake. It was one of the largest cities in the world at the time, featuring impressive pyramids, palaces, and a complex system of canals and causeways. The Aztecs were known for their advanced agricultural techniques, particularly the use of floating gardens called chinampas, which allowed them to feed a massive population. Their society was highly structured, with a strong emphasis on warfare and religion. One of the most famous aspects of their culture was the practice of large-scale human sacrifice, which they believed was necessary to appease their gods and ensure the sun would continue to rise. The empire's end came swiftly in 1521 with the arrival of Spanish conquistadors led by Hernán Cortés. A combination of superior Spanish weaponry, alliances with rival native tribes who hated Aztec rule, and the devastating impact of European diseases like smallpox led to the fall of Tenochtitlan and the collapse of their civilization. Babylonians. The Babylonian Empire rose to power in Mesopotamia after the fall of the Sumerian and Akkadian civilizations, with its most famous period being under the rule of Hammurabi around 1792 BCE. Babylon, their capital city, was legendary for its size and splendor, famously housing the Hanging Gardens, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The Babylonians made significant advances in astronomy, developing a sophisticated calendar and the ability to predict eclipses. However, their most enduring legacy is the Code of Hammurabi, one of the earliest and most complete written legal codes ever discovered. It established a clear set of laws and punishments, famously based on the principle of an eye for an eye. The empire eventually fell to the Persian king Cyrus the Great in 539 BCE, who conquered Babylon without a major battle, effectively ending their rule. Maya. The Maya civilization flourished in Mesoamerica for over 2,000 years, known for its incredible achievements in mathematics, astronomy, and architecture. Unlike a single empire, the Maya were organized into a network of independent city-states like Tikal and Chichen Itza, which often competed with one another. They developed a complex writing system using hieroglyphs and created a highly accurate calendar that tracked both solar and ritual cycles. Their understanding of the concept of zero was a major mathematical breakthrough. The classic Maya civilization experienced a mysterious collapse between the 8th and 9th centuries. Major cities in the southern lowlands were abandoned, and populations declined dramatically. The exact cause is still debated by historians, but leading theories point to a combination of prolonged drought, widespread warfare between city-states, and environmental degradation from overpopulation and deforestation. Akkadians. The Akkadian Empire, which existed from around 2334 to 2154 BCE in Mesopotamia, is considered the world's first true empire. Under the leadership of their founder, Sargon of Akkad, they conquered the Sumerian city-states and united them under a single ruler for the first time in history. Sargon created a centralized government and a professional standing army, which allowed him to control a vast territory stretching from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean Sea Gulf to the Mediterranean Sea. The Akkadians adopted many aspects of Sumerian culture, including their cuneiform writing system, but used their own Semitic language, Akkadian, which became the lingua franca of the region. The empire's collapse was relatively sudden. It's believed that a severe centuries-long drought struck the region, leading to widespread famine and social unrest, making it impossible for the central government to maintain control. This environmental collapse weakened them enough to be overthrown by invaders. Assyrians. The Assyrian Empire was a major Mesopotamian power known for its formidable military and brutal tactics. For centuries, they were a dominant force in the ancient Near East, reaching their peak between the 9th and 7th centuries BCE. Their army was one of the most advanced of its time, utilizing iron weapons, siege engines, and a highly organized command structure. They were infamous for their cruelty towards conquered peoples, often using mass deportations and public executions to instill fear and prevent rebellions. Despite their reputation, the Assyrians were also great builders and administrators. Their capital, Nineveh, housed a massive library containing thousands of clay tablets, including the famous Epic of Gilgamesh, which has provided invaluable insight into ancient Mesopotamian culture. The empire's end came in 612 BCE, when a coalition of their enemies, the Babylonians and the Medes, sacked Nineveh and destroyed their power. Harappa. The Harappan civilization thrived from around 2500 to 1900 BCE in what is now modern-day Pakistan and northwest India. It was one of the 3 earliest civilizations of the Old World, alongside Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt. The Harappans were master city planners. Their cities, like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, were laid out in a grid pattern with advanced sanitation systems, including the world's first known urban flush toilets and covered drains. They had a standardized system of weights and measures, and traded extensively with other civilizations, including Mesopotamia. One of the biggest mysteries surrounding the Harappans is their writing system, which remains undeciphered to this day. The decline of the civilization is thought to have been caused by a gradual shift in climate, which led to the drying up of major rivers and made agriculture unsustainable, forcing the population to abandon their cities and migrate elsewhere. Minoans. The Minoan civilization flourished on the island of Crete from approximately 2700 to 1450 BCE. They were a major maritime power, controlling trade throughout the Aegean Sea. The Minoans are known for their massive and complex palaces, most famously the one at Knossos, which featured intricate layouts, colorful frescoes, and advanced plumbing systems. This palace is believed to be the origin of the Greek myth of the Minotaur and the Labyrinth. Their culture was vibrant and artistic, and evidence suggests that women held a relatively high status in their society. The end of the Minoan civilization is linked to the massive volcanic eruption on the nearby island of Thera, modern Santorini. While the eruption didn't destroy Crete directly, it likely caused catastrophic tsunamis and ashfall that crippled their fleet and agriculture, leaving them vulnerable to invasion by the Mycenaeans from mainland Greece. Inca. The Inca Empire was the largest empire in pre-Columbian America, stretching along the Andes Mountains of South America. At its height in the early 16th century, it was a highly organized state with a complex road network spanning thousands of miles, connecting its vast territories. The Incas were master engineers and stonemasons, constructing impressive cities like Machu Picchu with precisely cut stones that fit together without mortar. They had no written language, but used a system of knotted strings called quipu to record information. Their society was centrally planned, with the emperor holding absolute power and the government controlling the distribution of resources. The empire's collapse was triggered by a combination of internal strife, as a civil war had just weakened them, and the arrival of Spanish conquistadors led by Francisco Pizarro in 1532. The Spanish, with their advanced weapons and the diseases they brought, managed to capture the Inca emperor and conquer the vast empire with a relatively small force. Mycenaeans. The Mycenaeans were the first advanced civilization on mainland Greece, flourishing from around 1600 to 1100 BCE. They were a warrior society organized around powerful palace states like Mycenae and Pylos, protected by massive stone fortifications known as Cyclopean walls. They spoke an early form of Greek and used a writing system known as Linear B, which was deciphered in the 20th century. The Mycenaeans were a major power in the Aegean, and their culture is the historical backdrop for many of Homer's epic poems, including the Trojan War. The collapse of Mycenaean civilization around 1100 BCE was part of a wider Bronze Age collapse across the eastern Mediterranean. The reasons are not fully understood, but likely involved a combination of factors, including invasions by outside groups, internal rebellions, crop failures, and political instability failures, and the disruption of vital trade networks. This collapse plunged Greece into a dark age that lasted for several centuries. Olmecs. The Olmec civilization is considered the mother culture of Mesoamerica, flourishing in the lowlands of south-central Mexico from around 1500 to 400 BCE. They laid the foundation for many later civilizations, including the Maya and the Aztecs. The Olmecs are most famous for their colossal stone heads, massive sculptures of human faces carved from volcanic basalt, which are believed to be portraits of their rulers. They were also the first civilization in the region to build large ceremonial centers and pyramids. They likely developed the first writing system in the Americas and may have been the originators of the Mesoamerican ball game. The reasons for the Olmec decline are unclear, but it's believed that a combination of environmental changes, such as the silting of rivers which impacted their agriculture, and possible internal conflicts, led to the abandonment of their major centers. Rapa Nui. The Rapa Nui are the people of Easter Island, a remote Polynesian island famous for its nearly 900 monumental statues called moai. These massive stone figures were carved and erected between 1250 and 1500 CE, representing a remarkable feat of engineering and artistry for such an isolated society. The Rapa Nui developed a complex society with a distinct culture and a unique, undeciphered script known as Rongorongo. The civilization experienced a dramatic collapse before the arrival of Europeans. The leading theory is that the islanders depleted their natural resources, particularly the large palm trees needed to transport and erect the moai. This deforestation led to soil erosion, crop failure, and starvation. What followed was a period of internal warfare and societal breakdown, which explains why many moai were found toppled over. And that's it for today's video. If you can subscribe and leave a comment if you have any new video ideas, that would be awesome. Till then, I'll see you in the next video.